What would you do if your heart belonged to a man who could never be yours, one cursed to roam the forest alone each night, bleeding, broken, and haunted? The forest was too quiet that night. The kind of quiet that presses against the ears and gnaws at the ribs. Alpha Kale felt it before he understood it. Something missing, something wrong, something he feared but did not dare name. His breath clouded in the cold air, his bare feet sinking into damp soil as the last traces of the wolf fell away from his skin. He stood in his human form beneath the skeletons of ancient trees, the moonlight washed pale across his scarred back. Every night she came. Every night she met him here. Leora, the girl with the soft voice and tired eyes, the one who touched him like he was not a monster. But tonight, she was not here. His chest tightened. The curse always left him raw, bones aching, blood pounding like war drums in his skull. She was the only thing that steadied him, the only warmth he had left. His pack feared him, his council tolerated him, and the world had long forgotten the name Kale Varon. Except her. She always came, every night, until now. Kale strained his ears, listening. No footsteps, no breaths, no whisper of fabric. The forest gave him nothing. The moon was fat and silver above the trees, the same moon that chained his blood and tore him apart each dusk. He sank to his knees, fingers digging into the earth. He had never asked her why she came. He didn't have the right. The arrangement was not spoken, but it was understood. She soothed the loneliness that rotted him from the inside, and he pretended he didn't need her. She gave him her body, warm and trembling in his arms, and he convinced himself it meant nothing, because if he believed it meant something, then losing her would shatter him. And Kale Varon did not break. Not for anyone, not anymore. But as the minutes stretched, a sick fear dug claws into his heart. Something had happened. He felt it, and the forest, his forest, felt it too. The leaves shivered, though there was no wind. The night animals stayed hidden. The world was holding its breath. He rose slowly, the raw ache of shifting still burning under his skin. Something was pulling him, dragging him toward the village, toward her. The village of Eldergrove slept beneath a thin fog. Cottage roofs curled with smoke from dying hearths. It was a place of whispers, where old traditions still clung like ivy to stone. And Leora did not belong here. She worked in the apothecary by day, grinding herbs with stained fingers and hiding bruises no one asked about. She belonged to no one, yet was owned by everyone. Too quiet, too gentle, too alone. Kale had first met her by accident, though nothing about that night felt accidental. She had found him half-shifted, bleeding, teeth still sharp, eyes still golden. Anyone else would have screamed, run, called the hunters. But she had only looked at him with something dangerous. Recognition. As if she, too, understood what it meant to be trapped in your own skin, to be feared for the wounds you didn't ask for. He hadn't spoken. She hadn't either. But she stayed. And then she came the next night, and the next, until it was no longer a choice, but a rhythm, a pulse, a quiet devotion neither of them dared to name. Kale moved through the sleeping village like a shadow. He did not need permission to enter. The Alpha never needed permission, but he kept his steps silent, his presence unseen. He did not want fear. He wanted only her. He reached the apothecary. The wooden door was closed, the windows dark, but the smell hit him like a blade. Blood. Not fresh. Dried. Scrubbed, Covered, hidden, his jaw clenched, a low growl vibrating in his chest. He pushed the door open. The room was neat, too neat. The glass bottles lined perfectly on the shelves, as if placed there by careful, shaking hands. But the floorboards near the table were wet, recently washed, and something small lay near the corner of the room. A pendant. Her pendant. The one she always wore. He bent down slowly, almost reverently, and lifted it. Broken chain. Snapped. Forced. His heart thundered, not with rage, not with pain, but with something far, far worse. Fear. Footsteps sounded behind him. He did not turn. A voice, thin and trembling, spoke his name like a curse and a prayer. Alpha? Kale straightened, shoulders tense. The village elder stood in the doorway, lantern light trembling in his hand. His eyes flicked to the broken pendant in Kale's grip, and the old man flinched. She whispered. They took her. Kale's blood iced. Who? The elder swallowed hard. The king's hunters. They said she belonged to him now. Silence, still, deadly. Then Kale spoke, soft, quiet, shaking with restrained violence. She belongs to no one. And the moonlight caught his eyes, turning them gold. The alpha was no longer lonely. He was coming. The elder's voice shook, as though the words tasted like poison on his tongue. The king's hunters had not come to Elder Grove in years, not since the treaty was signed, the one that demanded peace between humans and wolves. But peace was never real. It was only something people said to make themselves sleep easier. Kyle stared down at the broken pendant in his hand, the tiny silver leaf warm from his skin. Leora had once told him it was the only thing she had from her mother. She never took it off. Never. For it to be on the floor, broken, it meant she had not gone willingly. Something inside him fractured, a quiet breaking, a storm with no thunder yet. He slipped the pendant into his palm and closed his fist around it, the metal biting into his skin. The elder stepped back, as if the air itself had grown dangerous. Kyle spoke, voice low. Where did they take her? The elder hesitated, shame flickering in his old, tired eyes. To the capital, he whispered. She was chosen. Chosen. The word tasted wrong, twisted. Kyle's eyes narrowed. Chosen for what? The elder didn't say. He didn't have to. The king was known for collecting pretty things. Flowers, jewels, paintings, and sometimes people, especially those who had no one to protect them. But Leora had someone, whether she knew it or not. Kyle stood, the room trembling around him. I will bring her back. He didn't say it like a promise. He said it like a law. The elder swallowed hard, wringing his hands. Alpha, if you defy the king, the treaty will break. Kyle turned his head slightly, just enough to let his golden eyes meet the old man's. The treaty was broken the moment they took her. His voice did not tremble. The elder's breath caught. He could not argue. He knew the truth. Everyone in Elder Grove knew Leora was special, though none of them ever admitted it. The village took her help and her healing, but no one defended her when the king's men took her. No one stood in their path. They were afraid. Afraid of power. Afraid of punishment. Kyle was afraid too, but not of the king. He was afraid of what he would become if he did not go after her. He was afraid of the emptiness that would grow inside him until it devoured him whole. He stepped past the elder, his bare feet silent against the wooden floor. The old man caught his sleeve for a moment, voice cracking. If you go for her, you may not return. Kyle paused, not because of fear, because of clarity. "Then I will not return," he said softly. The elder's hand fell away. The door creaked. The night swallowed Kyle's silhouette as he walked into the darkness, where the moon waited and the forest bent to his will. The alpha no longer walked like a man. He walked like a storm. As Kyle moved into the forest, the trees leaned in, branches whispering like old friends. The earth recognized his steps. Animals stirred, then bowed their heads. The curse in his blood was not just a torment, it was power. Ancient, wild power. He could feel her now, her scent, faint as the last embers of a dying fire, trailing through the woods where she had been dragged. The king's hunters had come on horseback through the northern path. The ground was still dented from hooves. The torn thread of her clothing clung to a thorn bush. He lifted it gently. Dark green wool. Soft from where? She had worn it the last night he saw her, when she had rested her forehead against his chest and whispered, "Do you ever wish you could just stop hurting?" He hadn't answered. He couldn't. Now the weight of his silence felt like a blade. He tucked the scrap of cloth into his belt and kept walking. Up ahead, moonlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a clearing. The scent of metal, steel, soldiers. Kyle stilled, shoulders rising, breath slowing. They had camped here, 5 of them, and they were still here, sleeping, unaware, vulnerable. Kyle's jaw tightened. He did not want to kill, but he would not hesitate. Because there were rules in the world, rules carved into bone, taught by moonlight and blood. You do not take what belongs to the alpha. He moved without sound, a shadow among shadows. The first soldier woke only enough to gasp before Kyle's hand covered his mouth and snapped his neck like dry wood. The second did not wake at all. The third reached for a blade, but Kyle's foot crushed his wrist and silenced him with a single strike. The fourth tried to run. He didn't make it far. Only one remained, a young one, barely a man. He sat trembling beside the dying fire, his sword untouched, his eyes wide with horror. Kyle stopped in front of him. His breath shook as he whispered, "I didn't want to take her. They said I had to. I tried to help her. I swear." Kyle's expression did not soften, but he listened. "Where is she now?" The boy swallowed. "They took her to the palace, for the choosing." There it was again, that cursed word. "Why?" Kyle asked. The boy shook his head. "They said the king saw her months ago and wanted her. He sent orders. No one can refuse." Kyle's blood darkened, thick with fury. The boy shivered under the weight of it. "Please, don't kill me." Kyle stared down at him. For a long, heavy moment, nothing moved. Then Kyle spoke. "Go home." The boy blinked, stunned, but Kyle's voice hardened. "And never speak of this night." The boy scrambled away, vanishing into the trees. Kyle turned back toward the path. The palace was days away. He would arrive by dawn. But before Kyle could take a step, the forest shifted. A cold wind swept through the trees, stripping leaves from their branches and making the night howl. Kyle's heart lurched. This was not nature. This was magic. Old magic. The ground pulsed beneath his feet. The moon flickered behind fast-moving clouds. And then he heard it. Her voice. Not spoken, but felt. Like a whisper against his bones. "Kyle." His breath caught, his jaw clenching. It wasn't an illusion. It wasn't a memory. Leora was calling to him, not with words, but with fear, pain, desperation. She was still alive, but she was not safe. Not anymore. Kyle lifted his head, eyes turning molten gold in the moonlight. He was no longer only retrieving her, no longer only breaking a treaty. He was going to destroy anyone who dared to harm her, and the world would remember why the wolves once ruled. The forest answered him, branches bowing, wind shifting, the very earth leaning forward. Kyle stepped into the darkness. He would burn kingdoms for her. Leora woke to the sharp rhythm of carriage wheels on stone. Her wrists burned from the ropes tied too tightly, her body swaying with every bump in the road. The air was cold and smelled of iron and horse sweat. When she tried to sit up, a soldier's boot pressed lightly against her shoulder, not cruel, just a reminder. She was a possession now, a taken thing. The sky beyond the barred carriage window was still dark, but the first bruises of dawn were forming. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay calm. Panic never helped anyone. Her mother used to say that. Soft voice, tired hands, eyes that always looked far away. When the world tries to take your breath, Leora, you hold it steady. People survive more from silence than from screaming. So Leora did not scream. She stared at the bleeding horizon and kept her breathing even though her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The soldier across from her avoided her gaze. He was young, the same one Kale had spared. He had tried to loosen her ropes when the others weren't looking. She knew. She had felt his hands tremble. It didn't matter now. She was being taken to a place where kindness had no value. The palace. The king. The choosing. The words tasted like rust and dread. She closed her eyes, letting memory fill the darkness. Kale's arms around her, his heartbeat steady and warm, the way he looked at her. Not with hunger, not with pity, but with recognition. As if he saw her, really saw her. She wondered if he knew she was gone. She wondered if he cared. Then her heart whispered the truth. He will come. They reached the capital by mid-morning. The great walls of the city rose like a jaw of white stone, sunlight gleaming off polished towers. People watched the carriage pass, faces curious, empty, or afraid. Leora's throat tightened. Cities always felt like cages to her. Too many eyes, too many voices. The carriage rolled through a courtyard paved in marble veined with gold. Guards in black armor stood lined in perfect rows, spears shining. The gates of the palace opened with a slow, looming groan. Inside, everything was quiet, too quiet, as if the palace swallowed sound. The soldiers dragged her from the carriage, not roughly but firmly, and walked her through shining hallways where chandeliers dripped with crystal like falling stars. Leora's bare feet left faint prints on the polished floor. She lifted her chin. She would not bow. They led her into a room with a wide glass window overlooking the gardens. A woman waited there, tall, cold, dressed in deep purple. Her hair was silver, not from age, but from something harder. Power. She looked Leora over like someone assessing a horse for sale. So this is the girl the king wants. Her voice was smooth, without warmth. Remove the ropes, she said to the guards. They obeyed. Rope fell away. Leora did not rub her wrists. She would not show pain. The woman stepped closer. You were chosen, she said. The same word again. The same word that tried to make this sound like honor, not theft. Chosen for what? Leora asked quietly. The woman smiled, slow, thin, cruel. To be his moon bond. The air left Leora's lungs all at once. A moon bond was not a bride, not a lover. It was a cage made of vows and power. A life sentence. A collar. Leora did not scream, but inside, something began to burn. The woman's smile sharpened, like she enjoyed the flicker of fury in Leora's eyes. She said, You should be grateful. Most girls would kill for this honor. Leora's voice was quiet, steady. Most girls are not me. The woman's expression flickered, surprised, then annoyed. She waved a hand. Take her to the cleansing chamber. She will be prepared for the king tonight. The soldiers moved toward Leora. She did not resist, not yet. Resistance too early was wasteful. Her mother had taught her that too. Pick your moment, then strike where it matters. As they led her through the corridors, she noticed details: guard positions, side doors, the slope of hallways. This palace was beautiful, yes, but beauty was a mask. Behind it lived cages. The cleansing chamber was warm, filled with steam. Servants' women bathed her, brushed her hair, dressed her in silk soft as breath. They spoke no words. Their eyes were empty, as if their spirits had been taken long ago. Leora looked at her reflection in the polished silver mirror. She did not recognize the girl who stared back. Hair flowing like dark honey, skin glowing, eyes wide and bright. She looked like someone meant to be adored. But adoring was just another word for ownership. The door opened. A guard stepped in. You will wait here, he said. The king will call for you at moonrise. He closed the door. The lock clicked. Leora was alone. For a long moment, she simply stood still. Then she moved to the window. The view showed mountains far beyond the palace walls, the forest, his forest. Her breath caught. She pressed her palm to the glass. Kale, please. Then the door opened again, but this time it was not a guard. It was a girl, no older than 16, wearing a servant's apron and clutching a bundle of herbs. Her eyes widened at the sight of Leora. Oh, she breathed. You're the new one. Leora turned. What is your name? The girl hesitated. Names were dangerous here, but she whispered, Marin. Her hands shook as she unpacked the herbs onto a small table. Sleep herbs, obedience drafts, mind softeners. Leora's jaw tightened. They drug them, she said softly. Marin nodded, eyes filling with tears. All of them, all who are chosen, it makes them easier. Leora stepped closer, not threatening, gentle. Marin, she whispered. Look at me. The girl looked up. Leora saw the fear there, the brokenness, but also something else. A flicker, a spark. The same spark Leora refused to let die in herself. I need your help, she said. Not to escape, not yet. Just to survive tonight. She swallowed. If they find out, they won't. She took her hand, firm and grounding. Please. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Marin nodded. Just once. Quick, desperate, brave. She turned and swept half the herbs off the table, hiding them beneath the floorboard, enough to keep Leora's mind clear, enough to keep her herself. Thank you, Leora whispered. Marin's voice trembled. Someone once helped me. I couldn't save her, but maybe this time. She trailed off. But she didn't need to finish. Leora understood. The palace ate girls like her. It would not eat her. Not quietly, not willingly, not alive. As night began to fall, the moon rose, huge, golden, heavy with power. The air changed. Leora felt it. A thrum in her bones. A calling. Not the king's,
His. She felt Kale, distant but moving fast, like a storm rolling over the earth. She had never felt him like this before. As servants came to escort her to the grand hall, she walked with her chin lifted, her steps silent, her heartbeat steady. She did not look like a prisoner. She looked like someone walking toward fate. But inside her chest, something sharp glowed. Hope, forged from love and desperation. They opened the heavy doors. The hall was vast. Candlelight flickered off marble and gold. And at the far end, seated on the throne, was the king. Young, handsome, smiling. A predator disguised in silk and charm. His eyes swept.
The forest was alive that night, alive in a way Reyna had never felt before. The wind didn't just blow, it carried voices. The trees didn't just sway, they leaned, as if watching. Shadows moved without footsteps. Cassian held her hand tightly as they walked, every muscle in his body coiled, every breath measured. His senses were sharper now, ears twitching at every crack of branch, nostrils flaring at the faintest scent. Reyna kept pace beside him, though her heart drummed wildly against her ribs. Fear was there, yes, but something stronger rose in her chest. Resolve. They moved deeper into the pines until the lights of Briar Hollow disappeared, swallowed by ancient darkness. Cassian suddenly stopped. "They're close." His voice was low, controlled, but not calm. Reyna listened. At first, there was nothing, only the rustle of winter leaves. Then, a howl, not like the mournful cries that traveled through lonely hills. This was sharp, purposeful, a signal. Cassian's hand tightened around hers. "That's not a wild wolf. That's a summons." Reyna swallowed. "For you?" He didn't answer, because they both knew. The second howl followed, deeper, commanding. Reyna felt it vibrate through her bones, ancient and heavy with authority. Cassian closed his eyes, pain etched across his face. That one was Kale. Before they could move, shadows stepped out from between the trees, figures emerging like ghosts. Tall men and women, eyes glowing faint gold in the dark, wolves in human form. Cassian didn't step back, didn't run, but Raina felt him tremble, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous, restrained power. The pack had arrived, and they had not come to talk. Kale emerged last, moving with the calm certainty of someone who had never questioned his place in the world. His white hair glimmered under the moonlight, and his silver eyes swept the clearing, landing first on Cassian, then on Raina. "You brought her deeper into the wild," Kale said softly. Not angry, not accusing, certain. Cassian stepped in front of Raina, his voice low. "She's under my protection." A subtle shift rippled through the pack, like a wave of silent understanding. A claiming, a bond, a forbidden one. Kale exhaled slowly. "Then the rumors are true." Raina didn't understand, but she felt the tension coil tighter. Cassian's shoulders squared. "I won't let you touch her." Kale lifted his hand, not aggressively, but almost gently. "Brother," he said, "we did not come to harm her." The pack murmured, soft and unsure. Cassian didn't move. His jaw stayed clenched. Kale's voice lowered, carrying something heavy. Regret. "We came because Father is dying." The words broke the air like shattering glass. Cassian froze. Raina saw the change in him instantly. The conflict, the grief, the years of pain too deep to speak. Cassian's father, the Alpha King, the power that had shaped him, controlled him, tried to mold him into something he could not bear to be. Cassian whispered, voice raw. He was always dying, just slower. Kale's expression flickered, just slightly, with the ache of shared childhood. "He asked for you, and this time,
It is not a command. The pack watched like statues of muscle and moonlight. Reyna squeezed Cassian's hand, and for the first time, Cassian did not know whether to stay or run. Reyna could feel Cassian's heart through his palm, rapid, uneven, like a storm barely held back. She stepped forward, standing beside him rather than behind. "Cassian," she said softly, "what does this mean?" Cassian didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on Kale. "If I return as heir." Reyna's breath caught. "And if you refuse?" Cassian silently turned to her then, his gaze haunted and fierce all at once. "If I refuse, they will name another, and that will mean blood. This pact does not accept transitions without war." Reyna looked at Kale, at the wolves watching them with quiet, lethal patience. She suddenly understood. This wasn't just about family or power. This was about survival of all of them. Cassian ran because he believed rejecting their way of life would protect others. But leaving had nearly destroyed the pack. Returning could destroy him. Kale's voice softened, unusually gentle. "We do not want war. We want our brother back." Cassian's jaw clenched. "You want the version of me father built, the one who obeys." "We want the one who left," Kale answered. For a moment the world stilled. No wind, no wolves, no sound. Cassian closed his eyes, and Raina saw it. The weight he carried, the grief that never healed, the love buried under wounds. She placed her hand against his cheek. "You don't have to go alone." Cassian's breath shook. Kale's expression sharpened. "If she enters our world fully," he said carefully, "there is no return to the one she knows." Raina didn't blink. "Then I'll walk with him." The forest seemed to hold its breath. The wolves watched. The moon glowed. And destiny moved closer. Kale studied Raina with an expression that was almost awe or fear. "You would choose this path?" he asked, "knowing what he is, what he will become?" Raina lifted her chin. "I choose him." Cassian's breath trembled. Kale looked at his brother. "She is not born of our blood. She is not wolf." Cassian stepped closer to Raina, his arm gently brushing hers. "She is mine." The pack reacted, some with surprise, some with disapproval, some with silent, knowing acceptance. A bond was forming that defied every law of their kind. Kale pressed his lips together, the leader in him at war with the brother. "Cassian, you know what the bond means. Once sealed, it cannot be undone. If the pack rejects her," Cassian's voice cut like steel, "then I leave again, but I do not leave her." Raina felt her heart twist, not with fear, but with an overwhelming, aching love. Kale nodded slowly, the decision written in his shoulders long before he spoke it. "Then come. But know this," his voice lowered, "an ancient and heavy warning. The elders will not accept her easily. They will see her as a threat to our bloodline. A human mate is a fracture in the future." Cassian didn't flinch. "The future will change." A gust of wind moved through the clearing then, carrying snowflakes that glittered like falling stardust. Kale raised his hand. "The path to the mountain opens tonight. We return to the ancestral grounds before dawn." The pack stepped back, clearing a passage between the trees. Cassian looked at Raina. Fear, hope, love. "Once we go, everything changes." Raina squeezed his hand, then let it. They began walking, the pack surrounding them in a silent, guarded circle. The forest deepened, the night grew darker, but Raina did not look back. She watched the shadows move like living smoke among the trees, felt the ground vibrate beneath wolf paws that were not yet wolves. The air smelled of cold stone, pine bark, iron, and something wild and ancient, older than language. The path sloped upward, the trees thinning, the stars widening above them into a vast silvery sky. Raina stepped carefully, but her steps did not falter. Cassian walked beside her, his hand in hers, his expression unreadable, caught between past and future. As they reached a ridge overlooking the valley, the pack paused. The moon hung low and full, casting the world in a glow of quiet power. Kale spoke softly. "Once we cross this ridge, we are pack territory. There will be no hiding." Reyna nodded. Cassian took a breath, long and slow. "Before we enter," he said, turning to her, "there is something you need to know." Reyna's chest tightened. Cassian's voice was almost a whisper. "The bond between wolf and mate is not gentle. It is not soft. It is fierce, consuming. It ties hearts, breath, and fate. If you choose it, you will never be alone, but you will also never be free of me." Reyna's heart didn't waver. "Then I choose you." Cassian exhaled like he had been holding his breath for a lifetime. Kale looked skyward. "Then the moon has chosen as well." And as they stepped over the ridge into the world of wolves, something ancient stirred in the dark, watching, waiting, measuring the girl who had chosen the Wolf King to be.
The mountain rose like a dark titan against the night sky, its jagged stone peaks cutting into the silver glow of the full moon. Reyna felt its presence before she ever saw it clearly. Something ancient, something watchful. The Moonblood pack did not merely live in the mountain, they belonged to it, bound by blood and oath older than human history. As the pack approached, the air grew colder, sharper, almost metallic. Cassian's hand stayed in hers, his thumb brushing her knuckles slowly, grounding her as the world shifted from familiar earth to sacred territory. Torches flickered along the stone path, their flames casting long shadows across carvings etched deep into rock, wolves, moons, battles, coronations, stories told not in words, but in legacy. The pack walked with reverence. Reyna followed, every step echoing louder than the last. They crossed an archway formed from the intertwined rib bones of an ancient alpha, its size monstrous. Reyna swallowed hard. This was not a place that forgave weakness. At the center of the clearing, fires burned in a ring, and wolves, some in human form, others fully transformed, gathered silently. Dozens. No, hundreds. Their eyes reflected the firelight, gold, amber, silver, crimson. Watching, measuring, judging. Cassian stepped into the circle. The murmurs began. The heir returns. He brings the outsider. Human. His mate. The last word hit the air like a stone thrown into deep water, rippling outward, changing everything. The elders emerged next, moving with the stillness that made the world itself seem to bow. 7 of them, cloaked in dark furs, their eyes old as winter. At their front walked Elder Mevara, tall, sharp-featured, hair braided with silver thread, her presence commanding. Her gaze swept the circle, paused on Cassian, and finally narrowed upon Reyna. "The prodigal heir returns," she spoke, her voice neither warm nor cruel, simply undeniable. Cassian bowed his head, not in submission, but respect learned from childhood. "Elder." Mevara stepped closer. "You left your duty, your lineage, your throne." Her words were precise, clean, like a blade sharpened many times. Cassian met her eyes. "I left the chains." A ripple moved through the gathered wolves. Mevara's expression didn't change, but her voice cooled. "A king does not get to choose freedom, only purpose." Cassian's jaw tightened. Reyna stepped forward then, unable to bear the weight pressing on him alone. "He is not a king," she said softly, but with the steadiness that startled even herself. "He is a person." Silence followed, thick, stunned, electric. Hundreds of wolves turned toward her. Mevara studied her. "You speak boldly for someone without a place here."
Reyna lifted her chin. Maybe I am finding one. The murmurs rose again, shock, anger, curiosity. Cassian's hand brushed hers, a silent warning, a silent thank you. Mevara's eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful, not yet dismissing her. We shall see if the mountain agrees. Kale stepped forward now, his silver eyes flickering in the firelight. Cassian came willingly. Mevara regarded him. Did he bring the girl willingly as well? Reyna opened her mouth to speak, but Cassian stepped in front of her. Do not speak of her as if she is an object. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the clearing like thunder. Mevara raised one eyebrow. Your bond grows fast. Cassian did not respond. He didn't need to. The truth shone in the way he stood, like a shield drawn from pure instinct. Mevara continued, if the bond is true, then it will withstand trial. If it is not, the mountain will break it. Reyna's breath caught. Cassian's hand tightened around hers. What trial? Cassian asked. Mevara turned to the center of the circle, pointing to a flat stone platform carved into the earth. The rite of moonblood, the test of the heart. The pack stirred, whispers spreading like wildfire. Reyna swallowed. What do I have to do? Mevara's eyes locked onto hers. You must stand before the moon and speak your truth, not with words, but with your spirit. The mountain will see your heart. If it finds you unworthy, it will devour you. Cassian stepped forward immediately, voice sharp. No, she is not a wolf. The right could kill her. Mevara did not blink. Then she should not have bound herself to an alpha heir. The fire crackled, the mountain watched, and Reyna understood something. Being with Cassian meant fighting for a place in a world made of teeth. Night deepened, dark and star-filled. The pack formed a circle around the stone platform. The moon climbed higher, massive and silver-white, like an eye seeing everything. Reyna stood before the ancient stone, her breath visible in the icy air. Cassian stood just behind her, close enough to touch, but unable to help. Elders did not allow interference. One step, and he would break sacred law. Reyna could feel his trembling, not of his body, but his soul. Kale stood across from them, his expression unreadable, a warrior torn between duty and love. Elder Mevara raised her hands. The rite begins. Reyna placed her palms on the cold stone. The moment her skin touched it, the world fell silent. No wind, no fire, no breath. Darkness, then light. She was no longer on the mountain. She was somewhere else entirely. A vast white field stretching into eternity, sky blazing with moonlight. And she was alone. A voice, not spoken but felt, echoed through her bones. Who are you to love the Wolf King? Reyna's chest tightened. She wanted to answer, but no words came. The voice came again, louder now. Who are you to claim his heart? She felt her memories begin to unfold. Cassian shivering in the cold. Cassian refusing to hurt anyone. Cassian holding her like she mattered. And she knew her answer. Not spoken, but offered. I am the one who stayed when he was no one. The white world trembled, shook. The mountain roared. The wind screamed. Elder stepped forward, ready to pull her away if she shattered. Wolf tense, some shifting, some crouching, teeth bared, not at her, but at fate itself. Cassian's voice cut the silence, raw, breaking. Reyna! The white world burst, and Reyna collapsed to her knees. But she was breathing, alive. The stone beneath her glowed faint silver, an ancient acknowledgement. Mevara's eyes widened, the first true emotion she had shown. The bond holds. The pack murmured, shocked, confused, awed. Kale exhaled slowly. Cassian dropped to his knees beside Reyna, pulling her into his arms, not caring who watched. His forehead rested against hers, his voice a whisper of relief. "You came back." Reyna's voice shook. "I told you, I would walk with you." Cassian closed his eyes, overwhelmed not by fear this time, but by love that felt too big to fit inside him. Mevara lifted her hand again. "The next trial begins at dawn." Reyna stiffened. Cassian's eyes snapped open. "There is more?" Mevara looked at them, her expression solemn. "Love proves the heart, but tomorrow Cassian must prove the throne." The pack howled in unison. The mountain echoed. The night shook. The war for the future had begun.
Dawn arrived like a blade of pale gold, slicing into the night sky, sharp and cold. The air over the mountain was thin, heavy with anticipation. The pack gathered in the stone amphitheater built into the cliffside, a crescent carved into the rock, where leaders had risen and fallen for centuries. Reyna sat near the back, wrapped in a fur cloak Kale had silently draped over her shoulders. Her body still trembled faintly from the rite, but her heartbeat was steady. Cassian stood in the center of the arena, bare-chested, scars visible across his shoulders and ribcage, reminders of a childhood trained for war. The pack stared at him, not as the beggar she had known, but as the heir they had once bowed to. Yet something was wrong. Reyna could feel it. Cassian's eyes weren't calm. They were weighed with conflict. He didn't want the crown, not because he feared it, but because he remembered too clearly what power had cost him. Elder Mevara stepped forward. "By blood, by birth, by moonlight, you are the heir." Cassian didn't respond. The mountain waited. The pack waited. Reyna held her breath. Cassian lifted his head, but instead of stepping toward the throne stone, he stepped back. A loud gasp cut through the air. "I refuse the crown," he said. The ancient amphitheater trembled. Wolves snarled. Elders rose in outrage. And in the shadows, something moved. Someone who had been waiting for those words. From the edge of the arena, a figure stepped into view. Tall, elegant, dangerous. A woman. Her hair was black as raven feathers, braided with wolf bone rings. Her eyes glowed amber, not warm, but burning. Her presence split the space like lightning. Reyna felt Cassian's body stiffen, not with love, but with memory. "Lyra," he said quietly. The pack parted for her. She walked like she owned the mountain, and once she nearly did. Reyna's stomach twisted, not with jealousy, but recognition. This woman was not here by accident. Lyra spoke, voice smooth as polished steel. "The heir steps away from the crown?" She smiled, cold, satisfied. "Then the challenge passes to the next in line." Cassian's jaw clenched. Kale stepped forward. "Lyra, this is not your right. The bloodline." She cut him off with a single raised finger. "The bloodline extends to me now." Gasps. Shock rippled through the pack. Reyna looked to Cassian, but he had gone still, completely still. Lyra turned to the crowd. "For I carried the blood of the Moonblood Alpha." The meaning struck like a stone. Lyra wasn't just a pack member. She was the daughter of the dying Alpha King, Cassian's sister. Reyna's breath froze. Wolf royalty. And the challenger. Lyra walked in a slow circle, her steps measured, her gaze never leaving Cassian. "While you ran, brother," she said, voice dripping with iron and accusation. "I stayed. I bled. I followed the laws carved into our bones." Cassian met her stare. "You became what those laws demanded.
I chose another way. Lyra's expression twisted, not in anger, but betrayal, deep and old. Reyna saw it now. They were not simply siblings. They were two halves of a future that had once been promised to each other, Alpha and Lunar Second, King and General. Reyna felt this realization settle like frost. Lyra hadn't lost Cassian to abandonment. She believed she lost him to Reyna. Lyra stepped closer to him, her voice softer but sharper than any weapon. I was ready to lead beside you. Cassian's expression broke just slightly, and I was dying under it. Lyra's eyes shone, not with tears, but with rage that came from love that was never returned. She turned suddenly, her gaze landing on Reyna. And then there's you, the human. The pack shifted, hungry for what would happen next. Reyna stood. Her knees shook, but her voice did not. Yes, I'm the one he chose. Lyra's smile was slow and cold. Then let us see if the mountain agrees. Varos stepped forward again, her voice resonant. A challenge has been declared. Reyna's heart pounded. Cassian stepped in front of her instantly. No, she will not fight your wars. Lyra's eyes gleamed. Then fight for her. A hush fell, heavy and final. Kale's eyes widened in warning. Cassian inhaled slowly, the air shivering around him. You challenge my right to choose my mate? Lyra nodded once. And I challenge your right to lead without the strength to claim what is yours. Cassian's breath shook with old pain. Reyna touched his back. Cassian, you don't have to do this. He turned to her, and the helpless love in his eyes nearly broke her. If I do not fight, they will take you. That was the law. The pack protected mates only if the alpha earned them. Cassian's voice lowered to a whisper meant for only her. Winning means binding you to a life among wolves. Losing means losing you forever. Reyna swallowed hard. The choice was not his alone. She whispered back, then we choose together. Cassian nodded, and he stepped into the circle. The arena shook as Cassian and Lyra faced each other, two wolves born under the same moon, shaped by the same bloodline, torn by different hearts. The air thickened, electric, the pack vibrating with anticipation. Reyna could barely breathe. She could feel Cassian's fear, not of Lyra, but of the cost of victory. If he won, he became the alpha he swore he'd never be. If he lost, she would be taken from him. Lyra's voice cut through the air. To first blood? Cassian shook his head, eyes burning gold. To yield. Gasps. To yield meant defeat by surrender, not death. Lyra's expression flickered. Pain, sorrow, understanding, and fury. She lunged. Cassian lunged. Two wolves, one made of midnight sorrow and the other of burning fire, collided beneath the rising sun. The mountain roared, the pack howled, and Reyna understood. This was not a fight for power. This was a fight for love. Whether love would survive, the mountain would decide.
The sun rose pale and cold over the mountain, its light glinting off the frosts that clung to stone and pine. The arena floor shimmered with ice crystals, turning every movement into a sharp echo. Cassian and Lyra circled one another, breaths visible in the frigid air, muscles taut, eyes burning with shared history. Reyna watched from the edge, her heart pounding so hard her ribs ached. The pack stood silent, not cheering, not interfering. This was sacred, a battle of bloodline and destiny. Cassian moved first, fast, fluid,
sweeping low to unbalance Lyra. She countered with a twist, striking his shoulder with the precision of someone who had trained beside him since childhood. No hesitation, no mercy. They moved like mirrored reflections, two wolves cut from the same moonlight, shaped by the same storms. And yet, the difference was in their hearts. Cassian fought to protect. Lyra fought to claim. Cassian's foot slid on the frost. Lyra saw the opening and struck hard across his jaw, sending him staggering. Gasps rippled through the wolves. Reyna's hands flew to her mouth, but Cassian regained his footing, eyes glowing golden now, not fully transformed, but close. Lyra's eyes glowed too, amber like wildfire, fangs lengthening, nails sharpening, the line between human and wolf thinning like melting ice. The air thickened, time stretched. Reyna could feel the shift. This was no longer just a challenge of strength. It was a duel of heartbreak. Cassian lunged again, this time not with technique, but raw force, fueled by something deeper. Not anger, not pride, love. He pinned Lyra against the stone wall, breath harsh, voice shaking. "This isn't you," he growled. Lyra's laugh was sharp, breaking. "No, brother, this is exactly who you made me." She broke free, sweeping his legs, sending him crashing onto the frozen ground. The impact echoed through the arena. Reyna rose to her feet instinctively. Kale gently touched her arm, not to restrain her, but to warn her. If you cross that line, the right ends. He loses. Cassian pushed himself up, blood trailing from his lip. His eyes met Reyna's just for a moment. And in that moment, she saw everything. The boy who once tried to please everyone. The man who ran to save himself. The wolf who had found a reason to stop running. Cassian steadied himself. Lyra's voice cut the cold air. "You left me." The words were raw, broken with hurt that had never healed. "You left all of us. You left our father. You left me." Cassian's breath stopped, not from the fight, from the truth. "I was dying," he whispered. Lyra's expression cracked, something vulnerable beneath the fury. "We could have saved you." Cassian shook his head slowly. "No. You would have turned me into what he was." The words landed like a blow. Lyra's face twisted, with grief, with rage, with love scarred into something unrecognizable. Then she attacked. And this time, she did not hold back. She shifted mid-strike, bones lengthening, fur spilling across her skin, teeth elongating into fangs. A white and amber wolf, magnificent and monstrous, slammed into Cassian with the force of a storm. Cassian's body hit the ground again, but this time, he didn't rise as a man. He rose as a wolf. Midnight black fur rippling, eyes blazing molten gold. A creature of shadow and sorrow and devotion. The pack howled as the siblings clashed. Fang against fang, claw against claw. Snow sprayed, blood marked the frost. Yet in every strike, every snarl, there was familiarity, memory. Shared battles as children, shared grief, shared wounds. Reyna watched, hands trembling, heart breaking. Wolves understood emotion differently, but she could feel theirs as if it vibrated through the air itself. Lyra's fury was rooted in abandonment. Cassian's strength was rooted in love. And love, though powerful, did not strike to kill. Lyra pinned him, teeth at his throat. The pack held its breath. Cassian did not fight back. He closed his eyes, submission, not from weakness, but from sorrow. Reyna stepped forward without realizing. Cassian! Her voice cut the tension like fire through frost. Cassian's eyes opened, and that moment of hesitation was all Lyra needed. Her teeth sunk deeper. Blood spilled. Cassian's howl tore the sky apart. Reyna ran. There was no thought, no law, no pack. Only Cassian bleeding beneath the jaws of someone who loved him too painfully to let go. She crossed the boundary of the arena, falling to her knees beside him, hands pressed desperately against his wound. Warm blood coated her fingers. Cassian, stay with me. Please, please, she choked, her voice cracking into sobs. Lyra backed away, shifting back into human form, shaking, shocked at what she had done. I didn't. But the damage was done. Cassian shifted back, gasping, human again, bare skin streaked with blood, breath rattling. His voice was a whisper. Reyna. Reyna leaned over him, tears falling onto his chest. Don't speak. I'm here. I'm not leaving. Cassian managed a faint, pained smile. You crossed the line. You broke the right. Reyna froze. The arena went silent. The elders stepped forward. May's voice was soft, heavy, final. The mate intervened. The challenge is invalid. According to the law, Reyna already knew. Her tears hit the snow like tiny stars. Cassian forced himself to sit up, clutching her hand. No! His voice was weak, but unbroken. Hear me. Maeve paused. The pack stilled. Cassian rose to his knees, blood running down his back, voice shaking but strong. No throne is worth her pain. No legacy is worth losing love. Silence. The mountain listened. The wind held still. Cassian looked at Reyna, just looked, and the answer was already known. Lyra closed her eyes, and when she opened them, they were wet. Not with fury, but grief finally allowed to breathe. Then let the mountain judge him. Maeve stepped forward, but Lyra raised her hand. No, elder. He has chosen. So have I. She turned to the pack. Her voice was clear, resonant, commanding. The crown passes to me. Gasps. Silence. Power shifted like a tectonic plate beneath their feet. Lyra lifted her chin, claiming destiny, not through victory, but release. Cassian exhaled, a tremor of sorrow and freedom mixed. But the moment was not gentle. Choices have consequences. Maeve's voice rang out. The mate bond stands. The human stays. But understand this. Her eyes burned into Reyna's. You are now bound to the Moonblood pack. You share their fate, their dangers, their enemies. The sky darkened. Clouds gathering, wind rising like a warning. Reyna squeezed Cassian's hand. Then I will learn. Cassian leaned his forehead to hers. Their breaths mingled, their hearts steadied. The storm had only begun. And from the shadows of the forest, golden eyes watched, hungry, waiting. Someone else had heard the heir refused the throne. The real danger was still on its way.
Snow fell hard that evening, turning the mountain into a cathedral of white silence. The pack was restless. Power shifting always stirred unrest. Lyra had taken the crown without celebration, without triumph, and the wolves did not know yet how to follow a queen forged by heartbreak instead of bloodlust. Cassian remained in the healing lodge, surrounded by herbs and warm furs, his wounds slowly knitting under wolf resilience. But even healing had limits. Reyna stayed at his side, her fingers laced with his, her presence a beacon in the storm of uncertainty. Yet, peace lasted only a breath. The alarm howl split the air, sharp, echoing across the cliffs. Wolves raced to the edge of the mountain path. Reyna followed, heart pounding, cloak whipping behind her. Below, on the snow-covered path, leading up the slope, an army approached. Not large, but deliberate. At its head, a man walked. Tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in heavy wolf pelt armor. His hair was silver blonde, his eyes a piercing amber, his presence radiating confidence that did not need announcing. Kale's expression darkened. Lyra's jaw clenched. Reyna didn't know who he was, but she felt the mountain react, as if it recognized him. Kale spoke quietly, voice sharp with warning. Alpha Theron, of the Night Fang Pack. Reyna swallowed. Is he the enemy? Kale's gaze remained on Theron as the man climbed steadily toward them, never slowing, never looking away. Not yet. But he is a man who takes what he wants. The wolves fell silent as Theron reached the summit, snow settling on his shoulders like a mantle. He looked directly at Reyna, and he smiled. Moonblood Pack, Theron greeted, voice smooth as polished stone. I come requesting an audience. His eyes flicked to Lyra, acknowledging her with a nod, not of respect, but recognition of power. Alpha. Lyra stepped forward, spine straight, chin high. State your purpose. Theron's gaze returned to Reyna, not Cassian, not the pack, but her. I have come to collect what the moon has revealed. Murmurs broke like ripples in water. Reyna stiffened. Kale's hand moved subtly toward the blade at his side. Lyra narrowed her eyes. Speak clearly. Theron smiled slow and unhurried, like someone who enjoyed unraveling mysteries aloud. A vision came under the last blood moon. A woman, not wolf, not born of the mountain, would become the heart of the Alpha. And through her, the destiny of all packs would change. His gaze sharpened, predatory. She would stand beside a king. Reyna's pulse thudded painfully. You think that king is you. Theron didn't deny it. I came to claim my fated mate. The pack erupted in outrage. Wolves snarled. Snow churned under restless paws. Cassian, still weak, had dragged himself to the entrance of the lodge, shoulders heaving with the effort. She is mine. His voice was hoarse, but unbreakable. Theron's expression remained calm. You relinquish the crown, which means you relinquish the right to the mate bond. Cassian flinched, because the words were not wrong in the eyes of Wolf Law. Lyra stepped between them, her voice ringing like steel. The mate bond has already been proven by the mountain. It stands. Theron's amber eyes glowed. Then, I challenge. Silence fell like a falling axe. Challenge. The word needed no explanation. It was a demand for dominance, for claim, for possession. A fight not over territory, but over Reyna. Cassian's entire body tensed, but he was still too weak, his wound fresh, his breath shallow. Lyra moved fast, blocking his attempt to step forward. No, she commanded, you cannot fight. You will die. Cassian's eyes were wild, not with pride, but fear.
If I do not fight, he takes her. Reyna stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Stop. Both alphas turned to look at her. The wind howled. The snow swirled. The entire pack held its breath. Reyna stepped closer to Theron, not flinching, not bowing. I am not a prize, not a prophecy, not something to be claimed. Theron studied her, not offended, but intrigued. You speak with fire. I speak with choice. And my choice is Cassian. Cassian's breath trembled. Lyra looked at her with something that might have been respect. But Theron's smile did not fade. Choice does not change prophecy. Reyna's spine straightened. Prophecy does not override love. The mountain wind roared as if responding, but Theron only tilted his head. Then let love survive the challenge. Reyna froze. She hadn't understood. Theron didn't intend to challenge Cassian. He intended to challenge her. Gasps, shock, confusion rippled through the wolves. A human had never been challenged for a mate bond, not in the entire history of the packs. Kale spoke urgently. This is madness. She is not wolf. She cannot withstand the trial. Theron's gaze did not break from Reyna. The trial is not of strength. It is of truth. Elder Mayavera stepped forward, snow swirling around her like a cloak of spirits. The trial of the moonlit heart has not been invoked in centuries. Theron nodded once. Then, it is time. Reyna felt every eye fall upon her. Fear pooled deep in her chest, but beside it, something stronger began to rise. Steady, quiet, unshakable. She looked at Cassian. His expression broke her heart because he looked terrified of losing her. Reyna walked to him and knelt, cupping his face in her hands. Cassian, I am not fragile. I walked into your world. I stood before the mountain. I did not break. Tears lined his lashes, but he did not speak. She kissed his forehead. I will not break now. Cassian grabbed her hand, voice hoarse. If you fall, I fall. Reyna smiled through her shaking breath. Then we will stand together. She rose, turned to Theron, and spoke with a voice that echoed across stone and snow. I accept the challenge. The pack roared, not in approval or anger, but in awe. The trial circle was drawn in the snow, ancient runes marking the boundary between life, bond, and fate. Torches were placed around the perimeter, their flames flickering in the rising wind. The moon was still high enough to witness. Cassian stood outside the circle, gripping the edge of a stone pillar so hard his knuckles bled. Reyna stood beside him, not as queen, not as rival, but as sister. If she is what the mountain believes, she will not fight alone. Reyna stepped into the circle. Theron stepped across from her. No weapons, no claws, no wolf forms. Only the truth of the heart. Elder Mayavera lifted her hands. The trial begins. Snow lifted from the ground as if weightless, swirling into a spiral around Reyna and Theron. The world muted. Sound fell away. Reyna's breath slowed. Her heartbeat echoed. She stood in darkness, then light. The same white field she had seen before. But now, she was not alone. Theron stood in the distance. Cassian stood behind her. And something ancient, vast, and luminous watched from above. A voice moved through the silence, as old as the moon, deep as the mountain. Show your heart. Reyna closed her eyes and spoke with her soul. I choose love. I choose him. I choose us. The mountain listened, and the world began to tremble.
The white field stretched endlessly, bright as untouched snow, silent as held breath. Raina stood at its center, her heart echoing louder than footsteps. Cassian was behind her, not physically, but as presence, memory, and heartbeat. Theron was ahead, unmoving, watching her with the steady patience of someone accustomed to waiting for destiny to bend toward him. The air shimmered with something ancient, moonlight so pure it felt like sound, like touch, like judgment. The voice returned, no longer distant, but surrounding her like wind. Reveal your heart. Raina pressed her hand to her chest. She remembered Cassian on the courthouse steps, shivering and alone. She remembered the way his eyes softened when she gave him bread he didn't think he deserved. She remembered the strength of his arms the night the hunters came, how he shielded her body with his own. She remembered the alley, the transformation, the terror, the awe, and how she had not run. She remembered standing on the ridge saying, "Then I'll walk with him." The love in her chest did not roar. It rooted. It held, strong, quiet, eternal. Raina spoke, not with voice, but with the truth that lived in her bones. I love him. The air trembled, but Karen did not fade. Instead, he stepped forward, and suddenly Raina saw not the powerful alpha before her, but a child, alone at the edge of his own pack, unloved, unwanted, fighting his way up through blood and obedience. He had never been chosen, never once. The prophecy was not his promise, it was his wound, and Raina understood. He did not want her heart. He wanted to prove he was worthy of being loved at all. The realization stung like winter air. Compassion, unexpected and deep, bloomed inside her. Raina stepped closer, not to yield, not to falter, but to see him. Cassian's eyes widened, not in triumph, but in shock. No one had ever stepped toward him without fear. Raina reached out, not to touch, but to acknowledge. I see your loneliness, her heart whispered. I see your hunger to be enough. The white field pulsed, responding to truth. Karen's expression twisted, anger, pain, longing, all tangled. I was told the prophecy meant you belonged to me, he said, voice cracking under weight he had carried for years, that you were the one who would end my loneliness. Raina's eyes softened. Prophecies don't give love, people do. He swallowed hard, jaw trembling. If I cannot claim you, then I lose everything. Raina shook her head. No, you lose nothing. You gain the chance to build your own destiny, not one carved by someone else's fear. Karen's breath caught, like no one had ever given him that kind of freedom. But the trial was not finished. The voice returned, stronger now, ancient power rising like a wave. Show the bond. Cassian appeared, no longer behind her, but beside her, not summoned, pulled by her heart. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing like they had always belonged that way. Their bond did not blaze, it harmonized, two heartbeats merging into one steady, unbreakable rhythm. The white field glowed gold, soft, warm, alive. Karen stepped back, not defeated, but released. The prophecy had been misunderstood. The woman did not belong to the king. The woman would choose the king, and she had. Raina squeezed Cassian's hand. The world shook, not with violence, but recognition. The white field shattered into silver wind, pulling Raina back into the real world. She gasped as cold air filled her lungs, her knees hitting snow. The pack leaned forward as one, breath held. Cassian moved toward her instantly, but stopped just short of crossing the circle's edge. His eyes searched hers, desperate, terrified, loving. Raina rose slowly, turning to face Theron. The wind howled around them, judgment descending. Theron bowed his head, not in defeat, in acknowledgement. The bond stands.
he said, voice low but unwavering. A ripple of shock moved through the pack. Lyra exhaled, shoulders slumping with something like relief. Cassian's knees nearly gave out. His voice was barely sound. Reyna. She crossed to him. He caught her in his arms, pulling her into the warm, shaking shelter of his body. He buried his face in her hair. I thought I'd lost you. Her fingers curled into his back. You never will. The wind rose into a howl, not of wolves, but of the mountain itself. Elder Maybara lifted her arms, eyes wide, not in control, but witnessing. The moon seemed to pulse. The mountain rumbled. The sky shifted color, silver into deep amber. Reyna felt a warmth coil through her chest, slow, powerful, ancient. Cassian's breath caught as he felt it too. Their bond was changing, deepening, sealing, not just heart to heart, soul to soul. Maybara spoke, voice trembling. The moon has chosen a new alpha bond. But it was Lyra who understood first. Her gaze snapped at Reyna, then at Cassian, then to the sky. Her voice cracked, not with anger, but horror. This bond doesn't make Cassian king. She turned to Reyna, eyes wide. It makes you. The words crashed over the pack like a thunderclap. Wolves recoiled. Some snarled in disbelief. Others stared with awe. Cassian's arms tightened around Reyna, not possessive, but protective. His voice was steady, quiet. Explain. Lyra stepped forward, her amber eyes shining with realization and grief woven as two threads of the same cloth. The prophecy wasn't wrong. It was incomplete. She looked at Reyna, not as rival, not as queen, but as someone witnessing destiny unfold. The heart of the alpha is not the mate of the king. She swallowed. The heart of the alpha is the one the wolves follow. Reyna's breath trembled. I'm human. Maybara shook her head slowly, reverently. You were something new. The mountain rumbled again, snow sliding from cliffs. The pack's instincts churned, unsure whether to bow or bare teeth. Theron watched silently, expression unreadable, not defeated, but transformed by truth. Kale stepped closer, voice low. If the mountain names her alpha heart, then her word decides peace or war. Reyna felt the weight settle into her bones, not crushing, but steady. Cassian turned her face towards his, pressing his forehead to hers. She closed her eyes, breath shaking. I won't have to carry this alone. Their bond pulsed, warmth spreading through her chest, into her veins, into the air around her. Every wolf felt it. A quiet strength, a gentle command, a presence that did not demand loyalty. It inspired it. Reyna spoke. Reyna stepped forward into the center of the arena. The snow stilled. The wind quieted. The pack watched. Her voice was soft, yet carried through the mountain like a bell. I am not here to rule. Silence. I am here to heal. Something in the pack shifted, not submission, but understanding. Reyna continued, her hand reaching back to Cassian. He took it, standing beside her, not as her protector, but as her equal. There will be no war between Moonblood and Nightfang. No blood spilled over prophecy. She turned to Theron. Go home. Lead your pack with the strength you have earned, not the love you hope to take. Theron held her gaze for a long moment. Then he bowed, slow, deep, respectful. He turned and descended the mountain with his warriors. No threat, no bitterness, only change. The pack exhaled, some in relief, some in confusion, some in awe. Lyra approached, stopping just a few steps away. Her voice was quiet. You have done what no wolf or king has done. Reyna's reply was just as soft. I didn't win anything. I just chose love. Lyra's composure finally cracked, eyes filling, not with regret, but release. She bowed her head to Reyna. Cassian looked at his sister, something fragile and long broken slowly beginning to mend. Raina and Cassian stood together at the mountain's peak as the sun broke fully over the horizon. Warm gold light spilling across snow, fur, and stone. The world had changed, and now they would have to face what came next.
Peace settled over the mountain, but it was the kind of peace that comes before something breaks. The pack dispersed slowly, murmuring in low voices, unsure of how to speak of what they witnessed. The trial, the bond, the prophecy shattered and mended into something new. Cassian walked with Reyna back to the healer's lodge, his arm wrapped securely around her, as if the world might still try to take her if he didn't hold tight enough. Inside, the air was warm and scented with pine resin and herbs. Cassian sank onto the furs, exhaustion dragging at every line of his body. Not just from the fight, but from the truth revealed. Lina knelt in front of him, washing the dried blood from his jaw, his chest, his hands. His eyes never left her. It was not awe. It was love, raw and unguarded. "You should rest," she whispered. His fingers brushed her cheek. "I will. Stay with me?" She nodded, but as they sat in silence, Reyna felt something shift, subtle but present. The bond between them pulsed differently now, not just heart to heart, something deeper, like a thread of moonlight woven into her spine. She should have felt overwhelmed. She should have questioned the weight of destiny placed upon her shoulders, but instead, she felt steady, whole, certain. Cassian's voice broke the quiet. "Reyna, if the pack rejects you..." She shook her head gently. "They won't." She believed it, but somewhere deep within the stone and snow, something else had awakened, something ancient, something judging. Outside the lodge, Kale stood watching the sky, his breath forming pale clouds in the frigid air. He felt the shift in the pack the way a wolf feels a storm before it breaks. His fingers curled against his sword hilt, not out of fear, but instinct. Lyra approached, her steps quiet but sure, the weight of crown and leadership settling like a mantle of frost. She stood beside him, silent for a long moment. "They looked to her already," Kale murmured. Lyra exhaled, the breath shaking just slightly. "Not to her, to what she represents." Kale nodded. "Change." Lyra's jaw tightened. Wolves do not accept change easily. Her voice carried the knowledge of centuries. Packs were built on instinct, hierarchy, tradition, order tied to survival. And survival did not bend for outsiders. Kale looked at her, the snow reflecting in his silver eyes. "Will you stand with her?" Lyra didn't answer at first. Her gaze drifted toward the healer's lodge, where Reyna and Cassian rested. "I don't know," she admitted quietly. "I know how to lead warriors. I do not know how to lead hearts." Kale's expression softened, not with affection, but understanding. "Then learn." Lyra turned toward him, something like vulnerability flickering across her face. "And if the pack refuses to follow?" Kale's jaw hardened. "Then the pack must remember who the mountain chose." But even as he spoke, distant thunder rolled across the sky. Though no storm clouds were present, the mountain answered, and its answer was not gentle. Inside the lodge, Cassian finally slept. Deep, uneven breaths, his body drained. Reyna sat beside him, her back resting against the carved wooden wall. She stared into the small fire, watching the flames dance, listening to the slow rhythm of his breathing. She thought of her old life, warm Brad, quiet streets, simple days. It felt like a story belonging to someone else.
She hadn't lost herself. She had simply stepped into something bigger. But the bigger the path, the heavier the shadows. A soft knock sounded at the door. Reyna rose and pulled it open. Elder Varos stood outside. Her presence filled the threshold, not imposing, but unavoidable. "Walk with me," Varos said. Not a command, an invitation. Reyna followed her into the cold air. The mountain wind tugged at her hair, whispering secrets. They stopped at a cliff overlooking the valley, so vast Reyna felt like the sky could swallow her. Varos' voice was low. "The bond has changed you, and soon you will change the pack." Reyna didn't speak. Varos continued, "But understand, the old powers will not allow this shift without cost." Reyna finally looked at her. What cost? Varos' eyes were ancient. To lead wolves, you must learn what it means to be one. Reyna's breath hitched. "I am not wolf." Varos' gaze did not waver. Not yet. The mountain wind howled and Reyna realized this wasn't a metaphor. It was a warning. Varos began walking again, her voice carrying through the cold air. There was an ancient law, older than our packs, older than the bloodlines. The heart of the alpha may be human in origin, but she cannot remain human forever. Reyna stopped walking, the words hitting like ice. "You mean I have to transform?" Varos nodded once. "If you remain human, the bond will break under strain. You will not survive it." Her pulse thundered. The idea of becoming wolf was not romantic or mystical. It was terrifying. Bones shifting, nature rewriting itself inside her. And yet something in her chest steadied. How? Varos' expression softened for the first time. Through acceptance. Not force. Not bite. The bond will shape you when you are ready. Reyna exhaled shakily, her breath curling in the air, like smoke. "And if I am not ready?" Varos looked down at the valley, beautiful, vast, endless. "Then the pack will fracture, and war will come." Reyna closed her eyes. The future she had just saved could still shatter. Varos placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture heavy with meaning. "Do not fear change, Reyna Selwyn. Wolves do not become, wolves remember." And then she left Reyna alone with the wind, the snow, and the truth that her life was no longer her own. When Reyna returned to the lodge, Cassian was awake, pale, breathing hard, but alive. His eyes immediately found hers. "You're shaking," he whispered, concern threading his voice. Reyna knelt beside him, taking his hands in hers. "Cassian, there's something I need to tell you." She told him everything. The prophecy, the transformation, the cost. Cassian's expression didn't change, but his eyes burned with quiet turmoil. "Reyna," he breathed, his voice low and breaking. "I never wanted to change you. I loved you as you were." She leaned her forehead to his. "I know." He closed his eyes, pain trembling through him. "I would rather live as no one with you than rule anything without you." Her hands trembled against his. "Cassian, I'm not choosing power. I'm choosing you." He opened his eyes, and in them she saw the wolf, the man, the love, the fear, all of him. "Then whatever you face, I face it with you." Their lips met, not desperate, but certain. A vow without words. But as they held each other, far below the mountain, unseen in the shadows of the forest, a howl rose. Not wolf, Not pack. Something older. Something hungry. Something that had slept since before the first alpha was crowned. It had awakened, and it had heard Reyna's name.
The howl that rose from the forest that night was nothing like the cries of wolves. It was deeper, older, like stone cracking beneath the earth. The sound reached the mountain in a slow, rolling echo that made the pack stir uneasily in their sleep. Raina woke instantly, heart pounding as if something pressed against her chest. Cassian sat up beside her, his golden eyes already glowing faintly, instincts burning beneath the surface. He knew that call. He had heard it once as a child, before he ever understood the weight of his bloodline. Raina whispered, "What was that?" Cassian didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened, muscles going rigid. "A warning," he murmured. "A claim." Outside, torches flickered to life as wolves gathered, tense and alert. Leora stood on the ledge that overlooked the lower forest, her cloak snapping in the cold wind. Kale was beside her, eyes narrowed, hand on his blade. Raina and Cassian joined them, the snow crunching beneath their feet. The pack waited, silent, watching. Lyra's expression was grave. "There are stories," she began quietly, not taking her eyes off the trees, "of one who once sought to break the alpha line, a wolf born with no pack, no loyalty, no law. A wolf who believed the only true power was to devour it." Raina swallowed. The wind seemed to hold still. What happened to him? Lyra's answer was a whisper of ice. He was cast out, bound in blood, banished beyond the mountain. Cassian finished the truth. "He was my uncle." The forest below shifted. Shadows moved, too large to be wolves, and the howl came again, closer now. Cassian's voice was low, steady, and full of a fear he almost never let anyone see. "His name is Varos." Varos had once been heir before Cassian's father, firstborn of the moon bloodline, but where Cassian and Leora grew through discipline and loyalty, Varos grew through hunger. He had not wanted to lead the pack. He had wanted to consume it. When Cassian was a child, he remembered glimpses, Varos watching him from darkened corridors, eyes burning with something like pride twisted into hunger. And then one night, without warning, Varos had tried to perform the forbidden rite, a ritual that fused bloodlines by devouring the hearts of one's own kin. He had attempted to kill Cassian. Cassian had been only 9. The pack had stopped Varos, but not before scars had been carved into Cassian's chest and memory. Varos had been dragged to the edge of the mountain and marked with silver, banished, stripped of name and inheritance. But banishment does not destroy hunger. It only gives it space to grow teeth. Raina's breath stilled as Cassian spoke. He disappeared in the old woods, the land beyond borders, the place wolves once said death lived. Kale's jaw clenched. If he has returned, he returns with purpose. Lyra's voice was low, and we all know what he wants. Her gaze slid to Cassian, then to Raina, because Varos did not just want power. He wanted the one who could transform the balance of all packs, the heart of the alpha. The pack formed defensive lines, wolves shifting into half form, muscle thickening, eyes glowing, claws extending. Raina felt the air thrum with tension, like the night itself was holding its breath. Cassian stood in front of her, but Raina stepped to his side, not behind him. "I'm not hiding," she said. Cassian looked at her, truly looked, and the pride in his gaze warmed her amid even fear. But Lyra spoke sharply. "This is not choice, this is survival." Raina did not waver. Survival is choice. Before anyone could answer, the tree line exploded, not with flame, not with wolves, but with silence. Dead, heavy silence.
Then a figure walked slowly into view, tall, barefoot, cloaked in fur blacker than shadows. His hair was white, but not with age. His eyes glowed a deep, burning crimson, not like Cassian's gold or Leora's amber. This glow was hunger. Varos. The wolves recoiled, not in fear, but in instinctive recognition. He smiled, slow, wide, wrong. Family, he purred, voice smooth as rot. Cassian stepped forward, shoulders squared. You do not belong here. Beryl's eyes slid to Raina, and the smile deepened. And yet, neither does she. Wolves growled. Snow hissed as it fell harder. Varos lifted one hand. No claws, no threats. A gesture almost gentle. Little heart, he murmured to Raina. Do you know what you are? Raina's pulse hammered, but her voice was steady. I know what I choose. Varos's expression twisted. Delight, hunger, madness. Ah, but destiny is not chosen. The mountain rumbled. Leora stepped forward, voice hard. You are banished. You have no right to speak here. Varos didn't even look at her. Rights are for those who kneel to law. I kneel only to instinct. His eyes locked on Cassian. You should have died that night, little heir, when I tore your chest open. The mountain saved you. Cassian's breath shook, not with fear, but memory of a pain so deep that it once stole his childhood. Varos continued, voice low, like silk dragging across a blade. And now the mountain gives you a human girl, a mate who holds the heart of the pack, a heart that should have been mine. The pack tensed. Cassian stepped forward. She is not a heart to be stolen. Varos's smile widened. No, but she is a heart that can be broken. Raina's fingers curled into fists. Cassian's body shifted, shoulders broadening, fangs lengthening. But Varos raised one hand, casually. Fight me now, nephew, and you lose what you seek to protect. Let the bond pull at her too soon, and she will tear apart from within. Silence fell like stone. Cassian froze. Raina felt her blood chill. Varos nodded slowly, almost approving. You feel it, don't you, little heart? Raina felt it deep in her ribs, like something was waiting. Varos's voice softened to a purr. You cannot remain human long. The bond will devour you. Raina swallowed, but did not step back. I'm not afraid. Varos's eyes flashed crimson. You should be. Varos stepped backward towards the tree line, never turning his back, never exposing weakness. I will not take her now, he said softly. No, I will let the change unravel her. Let the bond strain. Let the pack doubt. His smile sharpened. When she breaks, I will come for the pieces. The pack surged forward, growls rising like thunder, but Cassian lifted his hand. No. His voice was low, final. Varos nodded once, almost approving, and disappeared into the trees. The forest swallowed him whole. Silence remained, heavy. The wolves slowly returned to human form, breath trembling, eyes wary. Leora looked at Cassian. She will return. Cassian's gaze was on the place where Varos vanished. He never left. Raina's heartbeat was uneven now, like two rhythms trying to become one. She pressed her hand to her chest. Cassian was instantly at her side. Raina. She forced a breath. I'm fine. But she wasn't. Something inside her pulsed like a second heartbeat. Deep, ancient, awakening. Cassian's voice broke with quiet fear. The change has begun. Raina met his gaze, and there was no fear in hers, only resolve. Then we face it. The mountain wind howled, and far below, in the dark roots of the forest, Varos whispered to the night. The heart will either save them or destroy them.
The change began quietly, not in fire, not in violence, but in the soft hours just before dawn, when the world is too tired to hide truth. Reyna lay beside Cassian, wrapped in furs, his breath warm against the back of her neck, his arm heavy around her waist. Outside, the mountains slept beneath a blanket of white, peaceful in a way that felt misleading. But inside Reyna's body, something stirred. She woke with a sharp gasp, curling forward as a shiver rippled down her spine. It was not cold, it was heat. Her blood felt too warm, her heartbeat too loud, her skin too tight. Cassian stirred immediately, senses sharp even in half-sleep. "Reyna?" His voice was soft, but the fear beneath it was unmistakable. She tried to breathe, but her ribs felt like they were expanding too quickly, as if her chest was trying to make room for something new. Her words broke into a gasp as another wave pulsed through her, a rhythm like the pull of the tide. Cassian sat up, gently pulling her into his lap. His hands trembled even as his voice tried to steady. "It's beginning." Reyna pressed her forehead against his collarbone, breathing through the heat, through the way her heart now beat just slightly faster than his. "It feels like something inside me is waking up." Cassian held her tighter. "You are not alone," he whispered. The room felt too small, too quiet, like the world was holding its breath, like dawn was waiting to see if she would rise as human or something else entirely. By midday, the heat had spread through her arms, her spine, her throat. Not burning, blossoming. Reyna could feel the mountain in her lungs, the forest in her blood, the wind pressing against her skin as if whispering, "Remember me." Mavera answered the lodge with a bowl of hot water and herbs, placing them beside the bed. Her expression was unreadable, not pity, not pride, but witnessing. "Drink," she said softly. Reyna did, and the taste was strange. Earth and metal and moonlight. Cassian kneeled at her side, his fingers intertwined with hers, grounding her as the world inside her shifted. "What do I do?" Reyna asked, voice strained. Mavera placed a hand on her back. "Do not resist it. The wolf is not something you become. It is something you uncover." Reyna closed her eyes, breathing slowly. She felt Cassian's heartbeat through their bond, steady and strong. She focused on it, let it guide her like a rope through darkness. The heat turned to pressure, deep in her chest, in her bones, in the marrow of her being. Her breath hitched. Her fingers dug into Cassian's wrist. Mavera's voice was calm, ancient. "Breathe, child. You are not breaking. You are remembering." Then, on the exhale, Reyna felt something inside her shift, not physically, not visibly, but undeniably. A second heartbeat joined hers. Night came again, and with it, the moon. And the moon knew her. Reyna stood outside the lodge, snow beneath her feet, breath forming silver mist. Cassian stood beside her, close but not holding her. This moment was hers to face. Wolves gathered in a wide circle, silent and watchful. Lyra stood at the front, her expression complex, part respect, part sorrow, part something softer than Reyna ever expected. The moonlight fell on Reyna like a blessing, or a burden. The warmth rose again, slow, inevitable, like tide returning to shore. Reyna's knees buckled, and Cassian reached for her, but Mavera lifted a hand. She must stand on her own. Reyna forced her legs steady, hands gripping the snow. The pressure grew, filling her lungs, her throat, her bones, not pain, becoming. Her senses sharpened, the sound of wind on pine needles, the heartbeat of every wolf around her, the quiet, desperate love in Cassian's breath. And then she looked up. The moon was bright enough to blind. Something inside her opened, wide, wild, vast. The world was too big. Her body was too small, and in that overwhelming rush, She remembered something she had never known, running through trees on 4 legs, the scent of frost, the sound of her own howl, a life that was hers before she had ever been born. Reyna gasped, and the wolf inside her woke. Her eyes changed first. A soft golden glow flickered, deepening into a steady, luminous amber. The pack inhaled as one. Cassian's breath left him like he'd been struck. Reyna's body trembled, not in fear, but in the effort of containing something vast, ancient, powerful. Her spine arched, not breaking, reshaping. Her fingers curled, nails lengthening the faintest amount, not enough to transform, but enough to prove the shift had begun. She did not collapse. She did not scream. She simply breathed, slow, steady, determined. The air around her glowed faintly, moonlight bending towards her like water drawn to gravity. Mavera whispered, awe in her voice. The wolf in her is gentle. Lyra nodded slowly, not born of dominance, born of devotion. Cassian stepped forward now, aloud, needed, placing his hand over Reyna's heart. Their bond pulsed, 2 heartbeats, 1 rhythm. Reyna felt the wolf settle inside her, not loud, not wild, but steady, patient, protective. Her, not something she would lose herself to, something she would learn to walk with. Cassian's voice was just a breath against her cheek. You did it. Reyna leaned into him, exhausted but whole. No, she whispered. We did. The pack bowed, not in submission, but respect. Not because of prophecy, because they felt her and accepted her. But peace was short-lived. The wind shifted suddenly, sharp, metallic, wrong. Kale's head snapped toward the forest. Wolves tensed. Cassian stepped in front of Reyna instinctively. Lyra's voice rang out, firm and clear. He's still here. Varos had not come to steal her, not yet. He had come to watch the transformation, to learn, to wait, to find where she was still weak. Reyna's wolf inside her stirred, not afraid, but warning. Cassian took her hand. We train tomorrow, he murmured. Reyna nodded. I'm ready. Because love was no longer something she offered. It was something she could fight with. And the fight was coming. The next morning broke cold and pale. The sky washed in faint lavender and silver. Frost hung on the pine needles like crystal beads. Reyna stepped into the training grounds, a wide clearing surrounded by towering evergreens, ringed with carved stone. She had slept little. The wolf inside her was quiet, but awake, breathing through her every heartbeat. Cassian waited for her in the center of the clearing, stripped to simple training trousers, barefoot in the snow. He looked strong, stronger than yesterday, not physically, but in presence. Where once he carried guilt and reluctance, now he carried purpose. We go slow, he said gently, though she could feel the tension in him. He feared rushing her. He feared hurting her. He feared losing her. Reyna nodded, her breath curling in the cold air. I'm ready. Cassian stepped closer. Listen to your heartbeat. Feel it. Then feel mine. Reyna closed her eyes. She felt his presence like warmth across her skin, steady, alive, familiar. But beneath it, another presence breathed softly. Quiet strength, steady instinct. Her wolf. Cassian guided her through small movements first. Balance, breath, awareness. She could hear everything. The rustle of ravens overhead, the crack of ice underfoot, the shifting paws of wolves watching from the edge of the clearing. Her senses were sharper, but grounding them felt like learning to walk again. Cassian moved around her in a slow circle. Good, he murmured. You're hearing more, but don't drown in it. Focus is control. Reyna opened her eyes and they glowed faintly, warm amber. The pack watching murmured, awed. Cassian's expression softened. You're not becoming a wolf. You're learning to remember the part of you that always was. Training shifted to movement. Cassian guided her through wolf combat stances,
Not aggressive or violent, but fluid, instinctive, grounded in center of mass power. Reyna's body adapted strangely, quickly, her muscles responding to Cassian's every cue before she consciously processed them. The bond between them pulsed, alive, threaded with heat and connection. But every time Cassian's touch lingered, the wolf inside Reyna stirred, not possessive, but protective. It startled her. The instinct wasn't to claim him, it was to guard him. Cassian noticed. Your wolf protects, not dominates, he said, breathing lightly. Your bond is rooted in shelter, not hunger. But as she listened, a flicker of something sharp pressed at the edges of her awareness. Fear. Not her own. Cassian's. He masked it well, but their bond revealed what he tried to hide. When she moved toward him quickly, his eyes flashed, not in fear of her, but of harming her. He held back. Reyna paused, chest tightening. Cassian, you're afraid to use your strength. He froze. The truth hung between them like cold smoke. If I push you too far, he said softly, I could break you. Reyna stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. I didn't survive the mountain to be protected from you. Cassian's breath trembled. Her voice steadied. We are strongest when we move together, not when one of us holds back. The wolves watching fell silent. Cassian swallowed hard and nodded. Then we try again. This time, I don't hesitate. Reyna nodded. Her wolf rose, calm and ready. This time, Cassian moved faster, fluid, precise, testing her reflexes, not shielding her from them. Reyna met him step for step, breath syncing with his. Their movements became a dance. Push, pivot, turn, evade, matching rhythm like two hearts in the same chest. The wolves around them watched in silent astonishment. But the test came suddenly. Cassian lunged for her center line, not aggressive, not gentle, real. Reyna reacted without thinking. Her body twisted, her grip locked around his wrist, and she pinned him to the snowy ground in one clean, instinctive movement. Gasps rose around them. Cassian stared up at her, stunned, breathless, not from the fall, but from the realization. Reyna, he whispered, you're already stronger than I was when I first shifted. She released him, stepping back, her heart pounding but steady. The wolf inside her did not roar, did not crow in triumph. It simply settled deeper, as if recognizing something. Cassian stood slowly, awe replacing his fear. Lyra approached from the circle's edge. The heart wolf adapts differently, she said quietly. She does not gain strength through dominance. She gains strength through unity. Reyna inhaled deeply. She could feel it now. Her power didn't come from force. It came from connection. But just as the understanding settled, something in the forest snapped. A branch. A footstep. Too soft for normal ears. But every wolf heard it. Cassian turned sharply. Reyna followed his gaze. Varos was not there. But something else was. Something older. Something cold. A chill swept through the clearing. Not wind, not weather. Presence. The pack bristled, shifting instinctively. Shadows moved between trees at the far edge of the clearing. Not wolves, not human. Something in between. Eyes glimmered, multiple pairs. Too many. The wolves formed lines automatically, with Kale stepping forward with his blade drawn, Lyra's body shifting into half form. Cassian moved to stand in front of Reyna, but Reyna grabbed his arm. No, I stand with you, beside you. Cassian hesitated, but only a moment, then nodded. The creatures stepped out of the trees, thin, pale, wrong. Their bodies were shaped like wolves, but stretched, snarls warped, bones too long, corrupted. Varos had not come alone. He had come with turned wolves, wolves who had surrendered to hunger instead of bond, wolves without pack or heart. Lyra's voice was cold steel. Bone walkers. Cassian's hands clenched. They should not exist. Reyna felt her wolf snap awake, hackles up, instinct thrumming like a drum. The bone walkers moved slowly, not attacking, circling, testing, searching. And Reyna knew what they were searching for. Her. Varys wanted her to transform too quickly, to break, to lose herself. Cassian's voice was a whisper of dread. He's trying to trigger a forced shift. Reyna swallowed. Forced shifting was something wolves feared above death. A shift without control fractured the mind, shattered the bond, destroyed the self. The bone walkers drew closer. Reyna's heart rate raced. Wolf pushing forward, human pulling back, body trembling. Cassian grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. Her gaze snapped to his. You are not alone. Her heartbeat steadied. The wolf settled. Reyna nodded once. Then we stand. Side by side, they faced the darkness. The bone walkers lunged. Wolves roared. Chaos erupted like wildfire. But Reyna moved, not with fear, not with confusion, with instinct. She struck with precision, not strength. She ducked under the swing of a twisted jaw, rolled across the snow, and came up at Cassian's side, every movement in sync with his. Cassian fought like a storm, controlled, powerful, lethal, but now he no longer held back. And Reyna fought like the mountain itself had risen in her veins. The bone walkers retreated, not defeated, but testing, learning. And when they slipped back into the trees, the message was clear. Varys was waiting, watching, preparing. Reyna's chest heaved, breath sharp in the cold air. Cassian turned to her, his hands cupping her face, his voice thick with emotion. You didn't break. Reyna's fingers trembled around his wrists. I won't. He pulled her into him, forehead to forehead. We are stronger together. Reyna nodded. But inside her chest, the wolf stirred again, not in fear this time, but in warning. The final confrontation was coming, and the bond would either save them or destroy them.
The sky lay bruised in shades of violet and steel as evening pulled across the mountain. The pack gathered in the council clearing, their breath rising in pale clouds, their eyes solemn. No one spoke. They all felt it, the pull of the inevitable. Varos would not stop. The bone walkers were only the beginning. This was not a conflict of territory or pride. It was a war for the future of every wolf living under the moon. Reyna stood at Cassia's side, cloak whipping in the wind, her heart steady but heavy. She could feel the wolf inside her now with every breath, quiet, alert, protective. Cassian looked exhausted but resolute, his eyes burning like molten gold beneath the dimming sky. Lyra stepped forward to address the pack, her voice cutting through the cold like a blade. We hunt tonight. We take the fight before it comes to our doors. Wolves bowed their heads, warriors shifted. The rhythm of battle preparation moved through them in waves, sharpening knives, tightening armor, exchanging low phrases of loyalty. Kale approached Raina and Cassian, his expression carved from granite. Varos wants the heart. He will come for her when the moon is highest. Raina nodded. Then he will find me standing. Cassian turned sharply to her. You will not face him alone. Raina held his gaze, soft, unflinching. And neither will you. The wind surged between them, carrying pine resin and frost, and the faint scent of blood on distant snow. The hunt had already begun. Preparations were silent and purposeful. Raina followed Lyra to the armory. Though wolves preferred claws, there were weapons forged for unnatural danger. Silver blades, obsidian-tipped spears, moon-steel arrows etched with protective runes. Lyra handed Raina a dagger,
the hilt wrapped in white leather. "This belonged to our mother," she said softly. Reyna looked up, surprised. Lyra rarely spoke of their mother. She forged it for healing and for mercy. The blade was beautiful, curved like a moon crescent, the metal reflecting light even where no light touched it. Reyna accepted it with both hands. "Thank you." Lyra didn't answer immediately. Her amber eyes flickered, soft in a way Reyna had never seen. "You changed the course of our history, not with strength, but with compassion." Reyna swallowed. "Compassion isn't weakness." Lyra nodded, her jaw tightening. "No, it is the most dangerous strength of all. It makes others want to follow you." Silence stretched between them, not hostile, not warm, just understanding. Lyra spoke again quietly. "Bring him back." Reyna didn't need to ask who she meant. Varos had once been Lyra's hope, before he became her grief. "We will try, but if we cannot save him," Lyra finished the sentence for her, "then end him." The words hung heavy, but necessary. Reyna nodded. She would not allow Varos to tear Cassian apart again. The blade felt steady, right in her hand. Night descended fully now, full moon rising, heavy and bright, like an eye watching the world. The pack gathered at the forest edge where the snow fell thicker, coating branches like glass lace. Cassian stood in front of Reyna, adjusting the cloak around her shoulders, his hands lingering, his breaths uneven. "Reyna," he whispered, voice low with fear he could not hide. "If something happens to me—" She pressed her fingers to his lips. "No." Cassian closed his eyes, pain flickering across his expression. "I cannot lose you." Her voice softened. "Then don't let go of me." Their foreheads touched. In the bond, she felt his heart, fast, fierce, terrified, and she let him feel hers, steady, unwavering, full of love that could not be shaken. Cassian's voice broke. "You are everything I never thought I could have." Reyna exhaled. "And you are everything I was always meant to find." He kissed her, not desperate, but slow, reverent, grounding her soul to his. When they separated, breath mingling in cold night air, Cassian whispered, "We fight together." Reyna nodded. "Together." The pack surged forward into the trees like one body with 1,000 paws. The hunt had begun. The forest was alive, branches shifting, snow falling in soft spirals, the cold air ringing with scent and sound. Raina could smell everything, the sharp pine, the musk of wolves, the faint metallic tang of something twisted and wrong. Bone walkers. Varos' presence pressed against the night like a predator scent, heavy, suffocating, ancient. The pack moved silently through the underbrush, coordinated without words. Cassian and Raina ran side by side, their steps matching, their breaths sinking. Her wolf did not fight her. It guided her, slowing when she needed caution, sharpening her awareness, grounding her to the earth. They reached a clearing lit by frozen moonlight and stopped. The air was still, too still. Kale raised his hand, signal to wait. But the earth trembled beneath their feet. Snow burst upward, something rising from the ground. No, many somethings. Bonewalkers lurched into the clearing, jaws open, limbs jerking. Wolves roared. The battle began. Raina moved without thinking, her blade flashing, her wolf guiding her arms and her instincts precise. Cassian fought at her back. Every time she struck, she felt the bond pulse strong between them. They were unbreakable, unstoppable. Until the forest darkened, and Varos stepped into the clearing. He did not roar, he did not snarl. He simply arrived, and the entire battle froze around him. Snow swirled like ash, his eyes burned crimson, deeper and brighter than before. He smiled, slow and serpentine. "Little heart, you shine." Raina stepped forward, blade ready, stance steady. Cassian moved to her side, golden eyes blazing. Varos tilted his head, watching both of them with chilling affection. How beautiful. Two halves clinging to each other. But love is the easiest thing to break. The ground cracked. Bone walkers surged. The pack was forced to split formation. Cassian's attention snapped for a second, just a second toward Kale struggling against 3 corrupted wolves. And in that second, Varos moved. Fast. Too fast. His hand closed around Reyna's wrist, grip cold as death. Cassian roared, shifting mid-stride, but Varos had already pulled Reyna close to him, his breath ghosting her ear. The heart belongs to the one who holds it. And with a burst of shadow, Varos vanished with Reyna into the trees. Cassian's howl tore the moon in half.
The world blurred into streaks of dark trunks and whipping snow as Varos dragged Reyna through the forest. His grip was iron, but not crushing, more like a cold hand around fate itself. Reyna stumbled, but did not scream. She would not give him that. Her heartbeat raced, her wolf inside pacing, pressing, ready to burst through her skin to defend her. Varos stopped in a clearing where the moon hung close and enormous, bathing the snow in pale silver. Bone walkers lingered at the edges like shadows afraid of light. Varos turned to her, his crimson eyes gleaming, not with madness alone, but with something tragic and hollow. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "The power in your veins, the bond, the birth of something new." Reyna steadied her breath. "Yes, and that's why I'm not afraid of you." Varos's expression wavered, just slightly. "Fear is not the point, little heart. Choice is." He stepped closer, voice lowering into something sharp and sorrowful. "I was meant to be what Cassian is now. I was meant to be chosen, loved." Reyna saw him differently then. Not just monster, but ruin. A wolf who had been denied affection so long that the hunger consumed him. Reyna inhaled, her voice soft but unwavering. "You were not denied love. You refused to receive it." Varos froze. The truth struck deeper than any blade. Snow drifted down around them like fragile ash. "You are not beyond forgiveness," Reyna whispered. "But you are beyond what I can save." Varos's gaze flickered. Pain, desperation, rage. "Then break, little heart," he murmured. "Break, and I break the pack." But before his hand could lift, before power could twist the air, Cassian's roar ripped through the clearing. He crashed from the trees in full wolf form, midnight fur bristling, golden eyes blazing with a fury that shook the snow. He slammed into Varos, sending both wolves tumbling across the ground in a flurry of fur and claws. Reyna moved instantly, no hesitation. Her wolf surged up, not to transform, but to anchor. She held her stance, her breath, her center. Cassian and Varos collided, teeth snapping, paws carving furrows into the snow. Lyra and the pack burst into the clearing moments later, Kale among them, weapons drawn, eyes blazing. But none of them could interfere. This was no longer war. This was reckoning. Varos pinned Cassian, fangs flashing toward his throat, just like when they were children. Reyna's chest tightened, but she did not run forward. She did not scream. She remembered. This bond was not chains. It was strength. She closed her eyes. Cassian. The bond thrummed, warm, bright, golden. Cassian's body surged with power, not rage, not fear, love. He twisted, overpowering Varos, pinning him to the snow. His fangs rested at Varos's throat, but he did not deliver the killing blow. Instead, Cassian shifted, becoming himself again, wounded, breathing hard, human. He looked down at Varos, not with hatred, but with grief, deep as winter. "I forgave you a long time ago," he whispered. And that mercy,
the one thing Varos had never known, broke something inside him. Varos lay still, not defeated by strength, but undone by compassion. His eyes, once burning crimson, softened to a dim ember. "You fool," he breathed, voice cracking with something shattered. Cassian's jaw tightened. "Maybe, but mercy is power too." Reyna stepped forward, her wolf humming inside her like steady flame. Varos looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, no hunger glinted behind his eyes. Only exhaustion. "You were not meant to destroy us," Raina said softly. "You were meant to teach us what happens when a heart is left unloved." Varos closed his eyes. Snow gathered in his lashes. "I was so cold," he whispered. Raina's hand hovered over him, not touching, but offering something the world had denied him all his life. Acknowledgement. "Rest now." Cassian reached into the snow beside him and lifted Raina's dagger, the one forged for healing and mercy. He placed it in her hand, not commanding, trusting. Raina met Varos's gaze. No hatred, no fear, just release. She placed the blade gently to his chest, not to stripe, but to still the bond of suffering. Varos exhaled, a long trembling breath, and was gone. The snow fell quiet. Silence held the clearing, the sacred kind, full of endings and beginnings. The pack stood still, watching not a victory, but a passing. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining, not with anger, but with pain that finally had somewhere to go. She knelt beside Varos's still form, resting her forehead against him. "Goodbye, brother." Cassian came to Raina, his body trembling, not from battle, but from everything that led to this moment. She wrapped her arms around him, and he held her as though she were the last warmth in a winter that had lasted too long. Wolves bowed around them, not to a king, not to a queen, but to the bond that had saved them all. Raina felt the wolf inside her settle, no longer rising, no longer pushing, simply present, whole, calm, hers. Cassian cupped her face. Tears lined his lashes, turning to crystals in the cold. "You didn't break," he whispered. Raina smiled gently. "Neither did you." Their foreheads touched beneath the moon's silver glow. Lyra rose, turning to the pack. Her voice rang clear. "Let this night be remembered not as the night we fought for power, but the night we chose love over blood." And the mountain, ancient and eternal, seemed to exhale. The months that followed were quiet, but not empty. The pack rebuilt. Bone walkers dissolved back into the shadows of memory. The mountain knew peace again. Raina learned to shift, slowly, gently, guided by Cassian's steady hands and the wolf inside her that was never wild, only true. Her form was not like others. Her wolf was white as snow with golden-tipped fur, eyes warm and bright like dawn. When she howled, the mountain answered softly, like a mother greeting her child. Cassian became what he was always meant to be, not king, not heir, alpha of the heart, the one who leads beside the one he loves, not above. Lyra ruled with wisdom, strength, and newfound softness, a leader not forged by pain anymore, but by understanding. Kale became her trusted second, always at her side, steady as the mountains themselves. And Raina? Raina became a legend, the first human to become Heartwolf, the one who healed a bloodline, the one who chose love and changed the world.
Thank you for staying till the end.
please do well to like and subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comment. It means a lot to me.